This is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
In the first game of the year, the Bison are up with just 2 seconds left, and then this happens. Whew. Creating the playoff rematch we've all been waiting for as the NDSU Bison take on the Montana Grizz this afternoon inside the Fargo Dome. Good afternoon and welcome to the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show. I'm Chris Berg along with Alex Egan. Alex, I watched that play. It gets my blood boiling. I can only imagine the guys right now in the locker room. Today you're going to hear from Coach Chris Kleiman. Former NDSU quarterback Brock Jensen's in town. Got a special interview with him. Also, very special Pro-Seed roundtable discussion as several former Bison players break down today's matchup. But first, Alex, let's take a quick look at how both teams have gotten to this point.
Yeah, we'll take a look at the schedules, and here's a look at the Bison schedule. The last time they were on the field, it was a 55-0 walloping over Missouri State. It seemed like all was lost once Carson Wentz went down with the wrist injury and the loss to South Dakota, but the Bison, they recommitted to the running game, and they've won out. Didn't think I'd be saying that, with redshirt freshman Easton Stick at the helm. Although the loss is the reason given by the FCS selection committee for the Bison receiving the 3 seed in the playoffs. We'll get into that just a little bit later. And here is a look at Montana's schedule. Of course, the win over NDSU to start, but then when you look at it, a pair of losses. Their starting quarterback, Brady Gustafson, he broke his leg against Liberty. The loss to Weber State without Gustafson, that was an overtime loss at home. Not a good loss at all. And Portland State, another playoff team. But Gustafson returned late in the year, and the Grizz seem to have righted the ship, specifically against Eastern Washington, Montana State, and then against South Dakota State in the playoff. So this Montana team,
well, the 2 key things that jump out to me, which I don't think anyone really maybe anticipated, those last 2 games for Montana, other than the playoff game, they put up over 50 points. Yeah. The last 2 games in the Dome, even though we're running the rock, we've put up over 50 points. Is this going to be a track meet today or not? I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. Playoff football always seems to be tighter football anyways. All right. Well, the weather seems to be cooperating today. It won't be a concern for the game since they're inside, but no matter the weather, Bison Nation is out in their massive numbers tailgating. We welcome in Mike Morkin with our Northland Ford Dealers Tailgate Report. Mike?
All right, thanks, guys. Boy, you can't argue and complain at all about the weather. It's actually pretty decent out here. In fact, we've got slick parking lot roads here as the melting is underway. Speaking of heat, we've got something on the stove. Pat Odegaard's here with a crew of friends. And Pat, what do you got on the grill today?
Well, today we have some ribs, which is kind of our specialty, some sausage and peppers, and we got soup and some egg bake, and it's kind of a smorgasbord here.
Well, you can't complain about the weather today, can you?
No, we've been blessed really all season, but especially today. You know, in the last couple of years, we've been looking at the thermometer, and it's been 14 below, but it's beautiful today.
Does the tone of tailgating take on a different sound when we get to playoffs?
Oh, I think so. I think we'll especially notice it when we get inside today.
A little louder for the folks from Montana?
Absolutely.
All right, give me a little sample now. Bison folks getting ready for today's game.
Go Bison!
All right, back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Mike. And let's take a look at the bracket as it stands right now in the second round. You see the matchup that we have today, North Dakota State and Montana. Montana beating South Dakota State. They scored all 24 of those points in the first half of that game. Yeah, it was impressive. The team that a lot of people didn't think should be in the playoffs exited the playoffs very quickly. Eastern Illinois lost to Northern Iowa, and Northern Iowa has a matchup against Portland State. That game is at 9 o'clock Central Time tonight, so you got plenty of time to watch that game after this Bison game today if you want to see who will be advancing on the other side of the bracket. If we skip ahead down to the bottom side of this bracket, Illinois State and Western Illinois are underway as we speak. We'll get you an update on that game throughout today's show. And Richmond and William & Mary are also underway. William & Mary beating Duquesne in a track meet, 52-49. Unbelievable for a playoff game there. Western Illinois, a team that a lot of people didn't think should be in either, but they had a very tough schedule. Beat Dayton 24-7 in the first round of the playoffs to advance on to take on number 2 seed Illinois State. We still have plenty of show to get you to. We have our Pro-Seed Bison Player Roundtable, as Chris said. That's all coming up. But next, we're going to get you back out to the Fargo Dome and hear from Bison head coach Chris Kleiman and get his final thoughts before his team takes the field. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
This is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
Welcome back. As the playoffs begin today in the Fargo Dome, the drive for 5 and the road to Frisco really is beginning to heat up. So Beth Houle is standing by with head coach Chris Kleiman at the Dome. Beth, what do you have for us?
Thanks, guys. Joined with Coach Kleiman here, preparing for this game. Obviously a matchup, a rematch in this one. How prepared are you guys to take on the Grizz again?
Well, we're excited about the opportunity. We've had essentially 9 days to prepare once we figured out who we were playing and stuff, and we've had good practices, and we're excited about the opportunity. It's going to come down to our ability to execute.
How much can you say the captains and the leaders on this team have gotten this group ready to play, and how much do you depend on that leadership when it comes to playoff football?
Well, we count on leadership, but everybody's ready to play. Everybody's excited about the opportunity to face Montana again, especially at our place, and we know it's going to be a great four-quarter football game.
Have to ask about Easton Stick making his first playoff debut today. What did you see in him in practice, and how focused is he for this?
Yeah, he's ready. The stage isn't too big for Easton, and he's a gamer, he's a competitor, and I'm excited to watch him.
We all certainly are too. Thanks so much for joining us, Coach. Best of luck today, guys.
All right, thank you very much, both Beth and Coach. We want to remind you to tune in tomorrow for the Bison Football Show with Coach Kleiman at 10:30 on KX4 here in the East, on NBC North Dakota in the West, and the rebroadcast on KBLY following Valley News Live 10 at 10. It will be interesting to see what Easton Stick can do in his first playoff game. Speaking of a quarterback who's been in a few playoff games, earlier today, Beth Houle caught up with a former Bison quarterback who is back to watch his team in the playoffs and the game today. Brock Jensen gives us his thoughts on Easton Stick.
Well, he's doing just what is asked of him, and he's not doing anything more or anything less. And as a quarterback, that's very important, to just do what you're asked to do and not try to be a hero in situations and force a football. Because here at NDSU, we pride ourselves on great defense and running the football too. So he's got a great arm, he's got a great legs. He's a great talented QB, and he's just got to keep up, keep listening to the coaching staff, and continue to do what he's doing, because he's got a bright future ahead of him.
If you were sitting across from Easton Stick right now, he's preparing for his first ever playoff football game. What would you say? Do you remember what that was like?
I do remember. Actually, it's funny because I texted him yesterday, and I just told him, hey man, have fun. Come lose. This isn't, you get to this point of the season and it's just another game. It's a big game because it's the next game. And that's what's preached here at NDSU. Every game's a big game. Doesn't matter who you're playing, whether you're playing the Pee Wee team down the street on Fargo South Bruins, or if you're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. It doesn't matter who comes into this Fargo Dome. You prepare the same way every week, and you rely on your preparation to pay off in the long run. And that's the kind of kid Easton is, and that's the kind of kids that we have on our football team. So we're going to be just fine today.
Well, it's great to see Brock back, even though he is calling the Bruins a Pee Wee team.
I don't think that's what he meant.
It is what it is. But, I think he makes a great point. These guys have played in so many playoff games.
Yeah.
Even though this is Easton's first, he's been around enough where it kind of is, all right, let's just go up and perform and do our thing.
That'll be fun. Yeah, it should be interesting to see how Easton responds. He's responded well so far.
Yes, he
You
has.
can catch the entire interview with Brock on our website, valleynewslive.com. Straight ahead, our Proceed Player Roundtable. Earlier this week, Beth Houle sat down with former Bison players to get their thoughts on the team. Do not go away.
This is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
Check out this Bison Nation getting ready. This must be a ginormous game. He's got St. Chris on the top of his.
So you know it's big when the Pope's in.
This is John Howe. I love to see Bison Nation. I think the crowd today in Bison Nation is going to play a very, very important part of today's game. Welcome back to the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show. Now, earlier this week, Beth Houle sat down with some former Bison players to get their take on this big rematch game.
Thanks, guys. We're out here at Herds and Horns, joined by some former Bison players for this Proceed Players Roundtable. Colton Hegel, our own Brian Shawn, Mike Dragosevich, our own Lee Timmerman, and then Tony Satter. Thanks so much for joining us, guys, today. Drago, thanks, of course, for having us here and hosting us out here. Obviously, NDSU and Montana. I want to jump right into it. This is a rematch game from week one, a huge one. I know one that the players were really excited about drawing again here in the second round of the playoffs. I mean, Hegel, you were there at the game, the first game of the season. What'd you see? What do you think about having a second chance at Montana?
Yeah, I think, beginning of the year, starting off on ESPN, it was an exciting game. Just to be there was awesome. Guys were fired up, and, to lose that first game of the year is tough, and then to come back and have it actually count in the playoffs again and have a rematch against a great team, Montana. It's going to be fun to watch.
Can they get them this time? How much has this team improved? How capable are they this round?
Absolutely, and I think you've heard Coach say it. It's a whole different team. We've had a lot of young guys play at the beginning of the year, seeing them mature and develop. Guys like Rob Grimsley is making his first start as a true freshman. Young defensive line, young linebackers that haven't played a lot of snaps, mature throughout the year, and then guys on offense. We knew that group was going to be a dangerous unit, but for them to develop and mature, you'll see a different team on Saturday.
I really think with the first game, too, is we forget C.J. Smith is out. And it's not only C.J.'s skills that are out, but it's also the fact of how that changes everything else in the secondary. Champ, instead of being a slot corner, is now an outside corner. Now you got to have MJ and Pierre play more nickel, and they really don't have a real nickel back. And Jalen Allison had to play a lot in his first start. And I just thought that threw everything off a little bit. They missed some tackles. I think, Keegs, you would say that. It was more of an execution thing in the first game. And I think Tony would agree that the running game, the running backs, the offensive line is better now than what it was in the season opener. I think that's going to be a key as well. They got to control the line of scrimmage.
Gosh, how nice is it to see this Bison run game kind of get its footing here?
Yeah, I know it's really changed. I know, unfortunately, when Carson got hurt, the run game changed. We see Easton running more, but the young running backs, Bruce Anderson and some of the guys that are involved, the kid from Iowa, Dunn, of course, and then the go-to guy has been kind of King Frazier, but he's been kind of our 3 yards in a cloud of dust guy. But now we got Dunn and Bruce getting things rolling, and they're not rookies anymore. You're 12 games in, 11 games in. Let's go now, right? They're veterans now.
I have a punter question.
Already? Already? Hold on.
Well, I guess it's not about a punter. It's more a punter and the things that we would ask because we don't know as much about football. Why do we run like 5 or 4 running backs? How come so many?
Because not enough of 1 or 2 guys stepped up to separate themselves. I have a
They don't have a John Crockett that carry 30 times a yard and get 160 yards a game. And I think they've been looking, Tim Polasek said, if they're looking for a guy that's going to have the hot hand and get going, and through the first 7-8 games, they really didn't have a guy that took the job. And I think King has finally gotten to the point where he is more of the guy. But if they get somebody else going.
What I'm seeing about King right now, though, is I've been editing together video for this pregame show, and I'm putting together this running back video, and you're starting to see King take some guys with him. You remember you used to watch John Crockett go 3 more yards with a couple guys on top of him still and fight for that extra yard? You're starting to see King do that, and it's huge.
And I think what happened, too, is I think King heard some things around town. That the running backs, and I think maybe some of the coaches went in that room, and
they
said,
were challenged.
Hey, listen, guys, you guys aren't doing it for us. And King took that to heart. And you saw from, I can't remember which game it was, but from about, I think, Southern Illinois on, he's running with more of a purpose, and he's a little more chip on his shoulder. And I think the rest of the kids in the room, Dunn and Bruce, and some of the others, it's too bad Chase hasn't been healthy. I think that would have helped, but I think some of that's happened, and I think King showed some nice leadership there.
If somebody was rotating in with you, would it have affected
We
your
did
running?
rotate.
Did you?
Naveer,
I thought it was just you
running
every carry.
No,
you didn't even throw the ball back then,
Yeah,
did you?
I know. Yeah,
and you punted.
Right, but yeah, we rotated. We had 3 running backs used to bring the plays in. So NDSU's always had a bag of running backs because you get banged up.
I think in the first game, the defense took a lot of heat for the number of plays that Montana ran. But I think the big reason for that was what everyone's talking about, the running game. The running game wasn't there, didn't control the clock enough in the second half, and allowed Montana the chance to come back.
An important thing to remember than that, though, is Carson had a high ankle sprain in that, and he played through it, and that absolutely limited what we saw. I'm excited to see Easton Stick run against this group because they're gunning for him, that's for sure. I listened to Bob Stitt's press conference. He said they have a young freshman, they're a young redshirt freshman, and we're looking to exploit that. So I'm interested to see what he can do there.
But you're hearing this week about how Montana, I read some papers this week, and how they're the hottest team in the country, and how since they got their quarterback back, how hot they've been. Well, Stick is, 6-0 now? as the backup quarterback. So who's done more?
60% completion.
You know,
I mean, yeah.
And which team has played better, with their backup quarterback or the team that needed their starting quarterback to come back?
They're going to need Easton to be able to run, though, because he is the second leading rusher on this team right now. So he's going to be vital. Real quick, I want to know what you guys think about these playoffs this year, how it's shaped up. I mean, all Missouri Valley in one bracket. I mean, how are you feeling about that? Does that make you a little angry as a guy who worked really hard to kind of build this reputation?
I think so, because I think you've seen the last couple of years, Missouri Valley is by far the best conference, I think, in FCS. And they have to see those guys day in and day out throughout the regular season and then see them again in the playoffs. It's hard. It's tough football, and it's tough to play a team twice and beat them twice usually.
Well, we certainly have plenty more coming up here in our Proceed Player Roundtables. We'll send it back to you guys, though. That's it for now from Herds and Horns.
All right, thank you very much, Beth. We will be hearing from the roundtable throughout the rest of the show. Wanted to let you know a score update. Illinois State is on top of Western Illinois with about 12 minutes to go in the second quarter of that game. So plenty to be mindful of throughout the rest of the show today before kickoff. In fact, we're going to hear from the roundtable right after the break. We'll be taking a closer look at Montana and, again, hearing from our roundtable. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football.
This is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
Welcome back to the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show. Let's take a look now at the numbers for both squads. We're going to begin with the Bison, outscoring their opponents by nearly 20 points each game. The rushing yards, well, they've gone up now at 244 per game after a 412-yard total against Missouri State. The passing numbers, they continue to improve with Easton Stick getting more comfortable. And the time of possession, well, NDSU holds the ball nearly for 1/4 more than the opponents do. Let's take a look at Montana now. They played one extra game, the win over South Dakota State in the first round of the playoffs, but I'll refresh your memory on the Grizz in case you forgot. They play fast, so the number that means the most is number of plays. They aim for 90, and Bison head coach Chris Kleiman has said now more than once, if the Grizz hit 90 plays, odds are they are going to win. To illustrate the point, Montana is averaging 84 plays per game in their 12 games, but in the 8 wins, the Grizz averaged just over 86 plays a game. In their 4 losses, the number drops to 78.5. So it's no secret what the Grizz want to do. They want to get to the line and go, keeping the defense guessing and gassed. All right, earlier in the week, Beth Hool sat down with several former Bison players at Herd and Horns for our Proceed Player Roundtable to get their thoughts on this Montana squad.
Hey guys, welcome back out to Herds and Horns for this Proceed Players Roundtable. This segment, we're talking Montana here. I want to know where you guys think Montana is at this point in the season. They've been through first quarterback, second quarterback, back to their to the third, back to the first now. They've had players suspended, arrested, reinstated. I mean, they've been all over the place. They've been a team that's changed a lot throughout this season. Who are they right now? What are you guys seeing from them at this point in the season?
Well, I think with Montana, I think they are playing at a high level the last few weeks. I mean, it took a blocked field goal return for a touchdown for them to even get into the playoffs. And I think the scary thing about them is if you make a mistake, their offense can jump on the mistake in a hurry, and all of a sudden, boom, now you're behind. Now you're behind a score or 2 scores. And you put all the pressure on the defense to try to hold that. And then you put pressure on the offense to try to catch up. And that's what's kind of scary about this team a little bit. Their front 7, I think, is really good. I mean, they're as good as anybody. I mean, you know, for Big Sky, it's one of the best defenses you're going to find anywhere. Maybe the only defense you're going to find anywhere.
They have a few standout kids. I think 91 Holmes, the defensive end, it'll be, you know, there's a lot of good defensive linemen in the Valley too, but he's as good as there is in the country, I think, at that level.
And Van Akron's one of those guys too that is, you know, maybe out with a broken arm. You know, that changes them a little bit defensively as well.
You know, the lucky thing for them is, you know, I think they've played some guys there. They have a little depth, but you know, they're missing their leading tackler if he doesn't play with a broken arm, and you know, chances are he's not. But it'll be interesting to see the matchup with Easton running versus Carson throwing the first time we played, because their linebackers are fast. Their front, the Holmes kid, you know, if you watch the South Dakota State game, he's really good. I mean, he's a Sunday type kid. He's almost unblockable, and so it'll be interesting to see the chess match between Paulsek and their D coordinator, and you know, and then how Easton handles. You know, Montana's a storied program. I mean, they've been around. This is not a new thing for them. And it'll be interesting to see how Easton handles. They're going to probably try to mess with him a little bit. He's a freshman, but I think Tim will make sure that things are under control. I think offensive line is going to be big.
I wonder if the coaches are even as excited to get a second crack at Montana, because I know they wanted. Coach Kleiman talked multiple times going into that game about limiting their snaps, and they ended up getting 92 snaps or something, and he was really upset about that. I wonder how much these coaches, that's something I'm excited to see and get to talk to them about. I know, Drago, you were talking a lot about, in between bites there, about how much you're excited about the coaching matchup in this one.
Well, I think what was the best thing about when we played is at half, you'd make like crazy adjustments, and you'd always come out. You always knew the fourth quarter was ours. It's been kind of different this year. It's been a little, and I don't know if that's the coaching or what. I'm just a punter at heart here, guys. But I think strategy has something to do with it. And I don't know that much about Montana's coach, but I've heard a lot of really great things. And I think it's going to be a little bit of a coaching battle here. I mean, strategy is going to play a big part.
I'm interested in seeing what a difference CJ Smith can make in this. Brian, you talked about it the last time we were out here at Herds and Horns, talking about what he brings to the table, just in the sense of all the other movement that happens in that backfield when CJ Smith is back there. And these are, he called them 1A and 1B in terms of the wide receivers that he's ever faced.
That's why the bye was so important for NDSU, for the Bison to get the bye because of CJ Smith and Jordan Champion, and to have them ready for this game. So the bye was huge. I think the bye helps the Bison more than Montana having to play last week.
What do you see from
Montana? I mean, I think Montana, with and Higgs, you can talk to this too. 9 3-and-outs last week against South Dakota State. 24 points in the first half, 0 in the second half. Clearly, you can make some adjustments to slow them down and do some things. If you can get a team that likes to go hurry up, 3 and out, boy, that leaves their defense on the field a long time.
Absolutely, and you hit it right on the head. Another thing you can look at too is at the beginning of the year, it's the first game of the year with a new coaching staff you don't know a whole lot about. Making adjustments is tough because you don't know what they're going to run, so you kind of have an idea looking at old tape. But that's a new team. He was in the College of the Mines, I think it was, right? Yep. That's a totally different thing from going there to Montana, so I think that's going to be a huge deal. A second game, seeing more tape on what they're doing trend-wise. Also, late in the year, you see more of their trends versus middle of the year, beginning of the year, because you see what their team's really about.
Where do you look in terms of film in this one? Are you looking at that Montana and NDSU game from week 1, or are you looking at SDSU Montana? Are you looking at Montana State Montana?
You look at them all.
I'm sure
they look at them all.
More than once.
Yeah. They're gonna look, and they're gonna do a self-scout. That's the other thing. When you get a bye week, the nice thing is you self-scout. So you look at yourself in the mirror and say, all right, what are teams seeing when they see us?
Right.
And that's almost as important as seeing the film of the other team, because it enlightens you a lot.
Well, the Grizz aren't the first team or the second team, I guess they play Montana again, that wants to go fast. I think it was when we were talking heading into the Southern Illinois game. Yeah. Coach Polasek talked about how important it is and how antsy fast teams are when they're standing on the sidelines. And then they get their chance, they get out of rhythm, and so, again, time of possession could be an interesting stat because Montana's 115th in the country in time of possession, and the Bison are number 1. And you can tell it means more for the Bison to control the ball than it is for Montana's hurry up. So it's interesting juxtaposition.
Where does Montana scare you guys most, though? Where are they the most dangerous?
You saw in the first game, it was big plays.
50-50 balls.
50-50 balls by
DBs.
DBs.
Are good.
Yep.
Yeah, the big thing too is, nobody's talked about this yet, is they got a little scat back running back. When you spread out a team, and then we're worried about their deep ball, there's a lot of lanes. Our linebackers are gonna have to make some tackles on this little guy, and he's quick and he's a good back.
We saw it in Youngstown.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to make tackles on that kid in space, and that's gonna be a huge thing. Yep.
Well, we certainly have plenty more to talk about in terms of this game. We're going to break down NDSU coming up next. That's enough about Montana. We'll get to the Bison in our next segment out here in our Proceed Player Roundtable at Herds and Horns.
All right, thank you very much, Beth. When we come back, we'll tell you who is playing today and who the Bison will be without on the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
This is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
Welcome back to the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football pregame show. Let's go out to Beth Houle standing by with our Sanford Orthopedic Sports Medicine Injury Report. Beth?
Thanks, guys. Here for a Sanford Orthopedic Sports Medicine Injury Report with Dr. Pyatt. This is a long stretch of football now. The guys have been playing for a long time. What sort of wear and tear can that put on an individual?
You know, it's interesting here at North Dakota State. We've been fortunate, but also it's been a challenge that for the last 5 years now, we've gone this extended season. So there's a lot of good with it, but the body does break down. They figured it out to where they know get that bye that first week, and that really helps. These kids, you'll see a lot of kids coming back that have had a chance to take a week off and let their body recuperate. So that's outstanding. But I also can't say enough for what has happened in the off season and in between things during the season with what the strength and conditioning crew has done. They've done everything possible to make sure that these bodies are going to hold up, not only strength-wise, but endurance-wise.
What sort of advice do you give to the athletes on the bye week just to be able to be proactive themselves and getting that rest and getting that recovery, especially Thanksgiving week? A lot of them went home.
Yeah, and for us personally, that's mostly a discussion with the kids that have specific injuries. The strength and conditioning guys are going to control what the whole team does, and they're giving them a chance to get away from football, you know, not only physically but mentally. That plays a lot into it for them, so they're getting that chance to just get a break from it, relax, be just a human being for a while. But from an injury standpoint, those people, we're really taking advantage of that. We're taking them out of any practice setting completely, even not only at the time when they go home, but those first few days of the week before they go home, getting a chance for their body to fully recover.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, Dr. Pyatt. We appreciate it. That's another Sanford Orthopedic Sports Medicine Injury Report.
All right, thank you very much, Beth. Let's take a look at the injury report today. These are the main guys. The bye week obviously helping, as Dr. Pyatt said, helping heal some of those smaller injuries. CJ Smith should be able to go today. He had his knee scoped after the Youngstown State game, didn't play against Missouri State. This is due to the off-season knee surgery that he had. Again, he didn't play the first time Montana and NDSU met. Andrew Bonnet still dealing with a bone bruise. Chase Morlock has had a nagging ankle injury throughout the season, but he should be good to go today. The one thing that is bad for the Bison, linebacker Levi Jordheim, he suffered a season-ending knee injury against Missouri State. They hope to have him back for spring football. All right, let's go back out to the Dome. Mike Morgan is back in the tailgate lot, and he has our Northland Ford Dealers tailgate report.
All right, thanks, guys. Long before the game gets underway inside the Fargo Dome, there are games underway outside the Fargo Dome here in the tailgating section. I'm going to talk to a couple of the competitors here, and game of, what is it called?
Bag toss.
Bag toss. What's the key?
The key, aim for the middle, follow through, and you always got to just do better than the other guy.
Okay, throw them back while I'm talking to him, because I want him to show me the technique on this, but different tone for today's game since we've hit the playoffs?
Yeah, a lot of excitement, a lot of fun. We're all ready to hit it. It's fun to be out here again. Playoff time's always the best.
And it's great to be out here when it's in December like this, and all we have is our hands in the pockets, and that's enough.
It's beautiful weather for December. We can't ask for anything better.
All right, come on. I want to see the technique here now. Grab a bag.
All right, I'm ready.
All right, we're gonna pause the game so he shows us how to play the game here.
All right.
Now loft? Is it
loft? Loft. I like to twirl the bag.
Twirl the bag. Here we go.
And a perfect shot.
Is that okay? All right, back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Mike. When we come back, we're going to hear more from our Proceed Player Roundtable. Do not go anywhere. You are watching the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football pregame show.
This is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football pregame show.
Welcome back to the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football pregame show. I am Alex Egan.
And I'm Chris Berg. We are walking you right up to kickoff today. The game, by the way, is on ESPN3. Stay with us because we've got you right up to kickoff. First, we're going to take you back out to Herd and Horns with Beth Houle for more of the Proceed Player Roundtable discussion.
Welcome back out to our Proceed Players Roundtable out at Herds and Horns. We're talking about NDSU in this segment. There are a ton of young guys who have been big-time difference makers in this game early on. We just announced that there were 5 players named to the Missouri Valley all-newcomer list. You were once an all-newcomer yourself. What's it like to take the field in that first playoff game?
Well, first of all, that was a long time ago.
No, it wasn't.
not for you, but that's great. But I think after you play a couple games, you kind of get in a routine, and it's tough, beginning of the year. You're new to college, a new state, at least for me. I know a lot of those guys probably new state. You don't know. So then you get a rhythm during the season, you get to know the guys, and playoff game is just like any other game at that point.
Especially being home, that's a huge benefit in this one. I mean, where can the Bison really take advantage in that situation? Drago, I'm picking on you. Don't say kick it.
I was so upset with our fans at the USD game. We did not show up. It was like people, which they were reading magazines in the stands, which is great because I support magazines. But that's what it felt like. I mean, it was like, we're going to win, blah, blah, blah. But the fans are so crucial. I hope that we come just ready to go on Saturday.
And the playoff dome fan is a lot different than the regular season fan. And we picked it up in the Western Illinois, even Missouri State. I think the fans realize that, yeah, we kind of let the team down in USD, and if you think about what has happened, we just played UND, SDSU, UNI, and USD comes in. Everybody was a little down, players, fans alike. I think we picked it up since, as far as fans go. The players will be ready, and the playoff crowds have been fantastic in the dome. I don't think there's any worry about that.
I still remember getting chills standing on the field that Georgia Southern game. I think everybody can
First
agree.
down loud.
Oh my goodness, the chills. It was just absolutely insane. I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, Gustafson's a veteran quarterback, but the first time a quarterback plays in that atmosphere, it has to rattle him, and so I think it'll play a part early in the game.
Well,
they don't use a lot of verbal. They learn a lot of hand signals, but still, that noise in itself is distracting if he lets it, if the kid lets it happen to him. It is distracting, even though Montana's been here. Like you said, Montana's been here last year. They haven't been here. That kid never played here.
Well, that's a big thing. Montana was at NDSU last year. That game had 5 field goals in it. Calm yourself, Drago. 5 field goals in there. And I mean, it was an interesting game, though. Do you guys look back at that one at all? I know it's a new coaching staff. I know it's a new quarterback. Totally new thing. I'm going to stop talking. Somebody else take over.
No, I don't think you can compare them at all. I mean, that Mick Delaney team was ground and pound, blah, blah, blah. They were kind of deliberate, kind of boring, and that's who we wanted to be. And now they have taken their athletes and spread them out and said, we're going to do all sorts of things. Yeah. And the word you use about playoffs when it comes to playoff crowd is torture. You said that a couple years ago. It's like torture for an opponent. And it's not in the first quarter, even the second quarter. It's in the third. It's just constant. You just can't get away from it. And in a tight game, the nerves are ratcheted up a little bit, and all of a sudden the pressure gets going, and the defensive line feeds off it. And all it takes is just a couple of sacks and a couple of hits early, and everything changes. That changes the dynamics.
Yeah, you'll see some of this, and you'll see some of Menard, using that crowd noise to get off and get a free run at the quarterback, which you saw a little against Missouri State. The coaches can tell the Montana players, hey, it's been loud in Wad Grizz Stadium. It's loud. It's going to be like that, but it's just going to be the other way. But until you're in there, it's just you're not, it's not the same.
One of the ways to get a crowd loud is to make a big play.
Absolutely.
And I think Easton Stick is going to have to make a big play downfield sometime early, because in the first matchup, and I know we talked about the first matchup, whatever, but those safeties came down so low and were a big part of that running game. I think you got to loosen them up a little bit and look for Stick to take a couple of pitches downfield early.
That's a good point. How does NDSU make this their game? I mean, where do they attack early in this one?
You get Gustin off his mark. Yeah. If you watch him play, you have to get him off his mark. You watch him play. If he stands there and throws, he's great. If you make him go left or right, he's not that good. He's not a good on-the-move guy. He's so big, and he doesn't throw a ball. And South Dakota State got him off his mark in the second half.
And how does the game plan change then, Hegel, for that? How do you do that with this guy?
So after watching the first game, and I haven't obviously watched tape on them, but from just watching the game, their offense is based on getting the ball out quick, getting those guys in open space. Tony mentioned before open field tackles, and I think that was missing in the first game. Tony mentioned it. And it's quick throws, getting the ball, getting first downs, and then getting that big play like we saw in the game. So first of all, stopping the run on first down, getting them off schedule is a big thing. And then getting them second and long, trying to get them to throw the ball, and then tackling open field tackles and getting off the field on third down. 92 plays is not good. So obviously, their thing is to run as many plays as possible. Time possession is irrelevant to them. They don't care. They want to run as many plays as possible and score as fast as they can.
And South Dakota State ran 75 plays last week. Montana ran 67. So it can be done, and that was in Montana. So if they can follow some of that blueprint, I think that'll
Getting
work.
off the field on third down is going to be the biggest.
Huge.
And many of the same things you just talked about, Higgs, is exactly what NDSU's offense has to do. First and second down are going to be big. Stay on schedule, be able to get, establish something on first and second down. Bison do not want third and long.
And then pin them deep when you can, right, Drago?
I hope they get the tight end involved a little more. We're starting to see a little more of it.
We're seeing
with
that
Albers
touchdown pass.
Right?
They've run it like every game.
Well, their linebackers are be concerned about the run, especially with the unaccounted for quarterback with Easton Stick. If we can get Hegel or Albers and Ilias.
Get in there.
Hegel, Hegel can't catch. Hegel can't catch. That's why you play defense.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Well, coming up next, I want to get your guys' predictions. So start planning, thinking about that score update, what you think this one will take. We've got more coming up here from Herds and Horns, though, guys. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Beth. We're going to be getting, I guess, their predictions right after this. Should be interesting what they have to say about that.
Yeah, we'll be getting our keys to the game as well, hopefully. Plus, we'll break down our quarterbacks in today's games. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show.
All right, welcome back to the Farmers Union Insurance Bison Football Pregame Show. The game today against Montana is on ESPN3. We'll have it. You can get to it in about 5 minutes or so. That's when that game will start. But don't change the channel just yet. We're going to get out to our Proceed guys in just a second. But time now for our Bobcat heavy lifting report today. It's going to be Jordan Champion. CJ Smith is expected to be able to play today after having his knee scope perform after the Youngstown State game. So we know this Montana offense has weapons at the receiver spot. We saw it back in week 1. And Brady Gustafson is back and clicking. It's going to be tough for that entire secondary with CJ Smith back or not.
Well, I think it's really important to remember Jordan Champion didn't win one 50-50 ball in that first game. I think that's what we want to see from these guys today is who's going to step up and obviously make a difference in some of those 50-50 balls.
Yeah, we should see big things from all of those guys in the secondary. They should be tested a lot today. Let's get the final thoughts on today's game from our guys at the Proceed Player Roundtable.
Hey guys, welcome back out to Herds and Horns. We're out here for the Proceed Player Roundtable, and now it's the part we've all been waiting for. We're looking for predictions on this one. I'm going to send it down the line. Colton Hegel, you're my first victim.
Yep.
What's your prediction? What's this one take?
I think it's going to be a little bit lower scoring than last time, so I'm going to say 27-21, obviously going with the Bison.
I'm going to say 31-21 NDSU. I think it's a close game until the fourth quarter, and then NDSU's physicality takes over.
I think it's going to be 14-14 going into overtime.
Whoa!
There's going to be a total of 7 punts, and the Bison are come away with a field goal of 32 yards.
Wow, that's really
How
really
you have 7 punts with only 14 points scored?
A lot of turnovers.
I guess.
A lot of fourth down. They go for it for fourth down a lot.
Do a lot of
Give him the ball.
Here we don't want it anymore. Fourth down a lot. It's going to come down to penalties.
It is. He will go for it a lot.
That's right, you played soccer.
All right, I'm going to predict it without a final score. I'm going to predict over 52. And here's what I mean by that. Coach Polasek talked about earlier this year when the Bison have rush attempts plus pass completions of 52 and more, they haven't lost in years. So I'll take the Bison over 52.
Lee Timmerman changing the rules. All
Changing
right,
the rules. I'm in agreement. I don't think there will be as many points scored as the first game. I think there was 70-some points, 73 points. I think it's going to be in that 30 to 24 range, 31-24 range, Bison winning. But I think the game will be similar but different. If that makes any sense. If that makes any sense. I think they're going to try to do some of the same things they did in the first game. I think we're just going to defend it better.
I agree.
And because that's who they are.
Well, shoot, they better defend it better.
Well, they have to, yeah. How many yards they had.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for joining us. We really appreciate this. Drago, we hope to be back here next week. That's for sure. We're going to dig into some food now, though. But thanks so much for joining us out here at Herds and Horns for this Proceed Player Roundtable.
All right, thank you very much, Beth, and we want to thank all those guys for taking time out. That was fantastic. Tony, going with the vanilla prediction, it will be the same but different.
But I love Tony Satter, former Fargo South Bruin. Tony, we love you. Thanks for doing that.
Thanks to all of those guys for taking time out of their schedule to do that. We're going to show you some interesting numbers about the quarterbacks for each team. Not specifically quarterbacks that are playing today, but we will see from Montana, Brady Gustafson, if we can pull up these numbers here. Now, this is what Montana looks like with Brady Gustafson and without Brady Gustafson. Again, he broke his leg against Liberty in week 3. That was a loss for Montana, so I gave that in the without column as he barely played. But look at that point difference.
Stark difference.
And the plays is what I see. All right, we talked about Montana wanted to get to their 90 play mark, and I know these are just averages, but look at that's a big difference. The number of plays that Montana's offense can run with Brady Gustafson versus the number of plays that they can run without him. He really is the key to this offense, and of course, it helps when you're 6'7" and you can see over top of everybody, and you have really good receivers to throw to.
Absolutely. We got about 60 seconds left, so we've got to bring up the other one as well. When you look at the comparison chart here with and without Carson Wentz, what's very, very stunning to me is the points per game. We talked about this a few weeks ago, Alex, but I mean, without Carson Wentz, they've run the ball a ton more. You can see there, obviously, rush yards per game, but who would have thought by doing that you're going to put up almost 9 or over 9 points more per game? That is stunning to me.
And the rushing yards is the big key. They really recommitted to the run with Easton Stick at the helm. I wouldn't say, because we've heard from Coach Polasek, the offensive coordinator for the Bison, that they trimmed down the playbook, but they did make it simpler for Easton Stick. He's a redshirt freshman. Carson Wentz probably knows the playbook better than Tim Polasek. So you have to adjust to who you have in the game. But this is stunning how much different the Bison are as they still remain the same. I feel like Tony right there. They're different, but they're the same. That's what it is.
Which is the key, though. Those rush yards, you're going to have to see a lot of time of possession today for the Bison. Keep the ball in their hands and convert on third down, a big key to the game for their success.
That will be crucial. All right, we are getting close to game time. The game again on ESPN3. If the Bison win, we'll see it back here next week. Have a good one.